This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Shut Up, Tell Me More. I am so excited about our guest today. She is a true Bravo celebrity. She was on Below Deck Season 9, where she was the chief stew of the My Sienna. Mm-hmm. She has a lengthy yachting career and the stories to prove it. Heather Chase, welcome to Shut Up, Tell Me More.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk to you about the behind the scenes of reality TV, Below Deck, all the things.
All of the things.
Yay.
I'm here an open book. I'm ready to be asked all the questions.
I love this. Okay, great. So you grew up in Hawaii. That is so cool. Is it like paradise? Tell me about it.
Growing up, definitely took it for granted. I think the older you get, the more you realize how much you take your hometown for granted.
That's true.
Like once you leave and keep going back, you're like, you come with a newfound appreciation and like love of where you grew up. Now I love it so much. I think back then I was ready to get off the island. I had island fever. I mean, I was there for the first 18 years of my life, but it's beautiful. I mean, come on, small town vibes, beautiful. Life is slow there. It's still, right?
Yeah.
You don't need this Palm Beach fluff of like glitz and glam. It's just like what truly makes you happy is how you thrive in Hawaii. Which is it's a cool way of life.
I love that so much. So like instead of doing soccer, do kids like do surfing?
Yes, and soccer. I think they do soccer and surfing, depending on what side of the island you're on. There's not many surf spots on the side where I grew up, but it's definitely a plethora of outdoor adventures. Like you are predominantly always outdoor. I think our thing in high school to piss our parents off, we would always go like cliff jumping.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, we were like cliff jumpers, random ponds. You'd find the tallest spot. Like that's just like what you did as a kid. My parents would be like, "What? You were at Boiling Pots? Like it's a spot behind the hospital where you have to like climb up these rocks and it's all behind fenced gates and like to get there." It's just the Hawaii way of being a wild child.
Oh my gosh. So speaking of your childhood, I did go back and watch Below Deck. I watched it originally, and then in prep for our interview, I wanted to watch again. And I caught something that I hadn't caught before. There was an episode where a lovely guest told you to go fuck yourself, which is super charming and wonderful. But you revealed that it was like triggering in a way because it made you think of when you were bullied growing up.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
It's a different world out there. Like I was definitely one of 3 girls that looked like myself in my entire school.
Really?
I was like the only blonde girl, which when I was younger was a lot harder. But when I got older and grew boobs, then everyone was like, "Oh, hey." And I was like, "Hey, I remember you being an asshole when we were in elementary school."
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, if I really try to walk down that path again and remember, like, I had my arm broken. I was slammed against lockers.
Oh my
I was like spat at. It was tough, but it kind of gave me the thick skin, and I would say really formed my humor. Like I started to learn, like the more you're a jokester, the more people like you, and when they would laugh at me, I would laugh too. Like I remember when I got my arm broken, everyone was standing around laughing, and I stood up and I just laughed too until I walked away and was like alone and realized what just happened. But you grow a thick skin, I guess. So I look at it more now of like the positives of the person it created.
That's amazing that you have that perspective.
Yeah.
That breaks my heart into a million pieces. So switching gears, how did you get into yachting and how did you end up on Below Deck?
Well, I left Hawaii. I moved to San Francisco for a few years, and I was working at a coffee shop in the city and going to community college. And while I was at that coffee shop, I was like saving up every penny to go on this trip to Costa Rica. It was my first time leaving the country, and I was so excited. When I got to Costa Rica, I was staying at a hostel and I loved it. I think a lot of people can relate. The first time you leave the country, you're like, oh my God, I've been bit by the travel bug. How do I do this more often? How can I afford this? So I was asking everyone at my hostel those questions. I was like, how do you do this? How are you traveling right now? What do you do for work? And a lot of the people I met were like, I work on a boat. And I was just like, noted. And I got back to San Francisco and I was actually let go of from my job, and I was like, shit, what do I do now?
Coffee shop.
And it really felt like serendipitous. Like I got back, they let me go, and I was like, what about this yachting thing, this boat thing. And I like went home, Googled how do you get on a yacht, found a couple websites, found the training I needed to do. It said Florida was an international hub. And within 5 weeks, I moved to Florida, did the training, and got on a boat 3 weeks later, and the rest was kind of history.
You're so brave. So you literally like traveled all the way across the country, started a new career where like you don't see loved ones for a long time.
Didn't know anyone here, just like up and moved.
Oh
it was definitely a revenge breakup move too at the same time. So I think that has something to do with it. Like if you want to see a girl conquer the world, watch her go through a shitty breakup. She will suddenly have a down payment for a house, a Harvard degree, and a new career under her belt in a matter of weeks.
Oh my God, I love that. And also like you couldn't really call while you're on the boat. So like you're very busy.
Yeah, I remember so I did my training in October, and my first official charter was a Thanksgiving charter. And I can remember being on the floor of my bathroom crying on Thanksgiving Day, just like, what am I doing here? Like, you know about the job, you know what you're getting into, but once you're actually like on a holiday, working those long hours, I think everyone has their moment in their first season when they like crack and you realize how kind of like isolated you are and how exhausted you are.
Yeah, and you live at work.
Yeah.
That's got to be so crazy.
And I was so keen on wanting my first job that I will never forget. This captain walked me into the crew mess and showed me that my bed was above the crew mess. Yes.
Stop.
And I was like that diehard wanting to get into the industry that I said yes to this gig. My bed was in the crew mess. The table I ate at and my laundry machines were all in the crew mess. It was a smaller boat. And my chief steward did not let me leave that room for like 5 days. And I remember like kind of going crazy. Like I went to go return laundry to the guest and she was like, we'll take it. You can stay down there. And it felt like the evil stepmother of Cinderella. Like my first charter blew my mind. It definitely broke me, set me up for like the hard realities of yachting. But
yes, you were like in the school of the hard knocks. That's crazy. So like when people come into your room and be like, snack time, like.
Oh yeah, I just had like a little curtain. It was like a little tiny curtain and like a bed. I was just like, hi guys, can you pass me some Cheetos? You know, like
caring and sharing. Like, oh my gosh.
It was psychotic. But then after that charter, they let go of one stew and I earned a bed. Oh my God. Like,
yay!
I got a room, you know, so there was that.
I love that you stuck with it for that long. That's amazing. I feel like that says so much about you.
Yeah, and I was on that boat for like a year and a half, 2 years. That my first boat.
Gosh, a year and a half, 2 years on the same boat.
Yeah.
How do you maintain like friendships when you're on like with people on land?
I think it's I would say it's a lot like being friends with people from your high school days. Mm-hmm. Like your real friends, any amount of time can go. And when you reconnect, it's like no day has passed. Mm-hmm. So in reality, it's like you truly learn who the real ones are, right?
Yeah.
You learn who the real friends are when you go through the yachting industry because you don't have time to talk. And when you can talk, they're always there. So.
Oh my gosh, the stories when you get back must be so good. Like the gossip must be amazing.
I know. It's almost like I used to like call my mom and my grandma in the same video call because I was like, I don't want to tell this story 9 times.
Yes.
So I gotta call you, my best friend, my grandma, my grandpa. Like there's so many people that I want to like tell the same thing to. Yet you're exhausted and you just want to like sleep and drink wine.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm sure. I can only imagine they'd be like, Mom, I'll talk to you in a year and a half.
Right.
So how did you end up on the show?
Below Deck monitors, in my opinion, from what I know, good question. Below Deck monitors all of the yachting pages. So there's like Facebook pages called Fort Lauderdale Yacht Crew, Palm Beach Yacht Crew, and like Daywork 123. And there are all these websites that people will post their resumes on or they follow to see job postings. And I know that the Below Deck producers scour all the people that are following those job posting pages. Because I had been reached out to on Facebook multiple times by a couple of people being like, hey, are you interested in being on Below Deck? XYZ, we'd love to interview you. And they just like reach out to anyone on the page. And I interviewed with them. Oh my gosh, I want to say my first time interviewing with them was like 2017 or 2018. Oh, wow. And it was for a couples position. This was before they started Below Deck Sailing. Because did you watch Sailing? Season 1, they had that couple.
Yes.
Paget and Sierra.
Yes.
And when I interviewed, I had told them, it was just me. I was like, oh, I have a boyfriend who's a mate. And they were like, actually, we don't usually hire single people, but we're interested in hiring a couple. So would your boyfriend be interested on hopping on this call with us? And next thing you know, we like interviewed, and obviously it didn't work out. But they kept my number and they kept reaching out to me. The next year, I think they were following me and they knew I was single. They were like, girl, you are posting your booty on Instagram. We know you are not in that relationship anymore. And so I interviewed for the med season when Katie Floody was actually Chief Stew. And I was convinced. I went through multiple interview processes. I was like, this has got to be it. Like, no questions asked.
How many interviews did you go through?
3, I think. It was a total of 3.
Yeah.
And we were pretty much at like negotiation stage. I don't know if I can say that. I did 3 interviews with them. So, and I was just like waiting for the call. And then they let me know, they're like, we want you to be our standby girl if anything falls through. And I was like, standby girl? Like, I ain't nobody's second choice. And I just like went on with living my life. And they must have called me back like 6 weeks later. And they were like, we need someone for Caribbean. Will you interview with us again? And I was like over it at that point. I was like, you lost your chance the same way you are when your ex comes calling back. It was like playing hard to get. I was like, I do not care about this. And I took the interview and I didn't really prep for it at all. I just showed up as myself, like raw and real. And then the next day they're like, you got the part. And I was like, what? I was like, the one time that I like didn't care and like didn't put effort into it, it all worked out.
I love it. They just wanted you. So wait, did the boyfriend find out that you got it?
I think eventually, yeah. I don't keep up with him.
That's so fascinating, by the way, that they were trying to get couples on. Have you ever been on a boat with a couple, like just on a normal charter?
As myself?
Like a crew member. Like on the boat with 2 crew members. Oh, that first
boat. The real story is the way I got a bed was the end of that first charter. I started hooking up with the mate, and then next thing you know, I was like sleeping in his bed, but I just didn't want to live in the crew mess anymore. And then I got a new room out of it, so I was like, it's definitely crawling my way up the ladder any which way I could.
I love that. Okay, because I've always wondered, like, especially in your season, it's crazy. There are so many steamy moments. There's like a triple kiss in the hot tub. Like you're all hanging out in there. There's like so much touching, constant sexual tension. Oh, yeah. Is that something that goes on, like, not on TV?
I want to, yes. Like, it really is. I feel like yachties, when you're especially away for multiple weeks on end, if you're a bunch of single people, like, people start to look hot. Yeah. Right? People look hotter and hotter as the days go on because you're like, well, there's not much out there right now. What else am I going to do? Don't they say, have you ever heard that old wives' tale that mermaids are actually just like fish in the sea? That like old sailors would just hallucinate so much because they were out at sea for so long that they would start to hallucinate and be like, wow, look, it's so beautiful. It's just like a mahi fish, like swimming in the water. Like,
that makes you look at Ariel like totally different now.
It's all a figment of your imagination. Yeah. No, but for sure, like the steamy tension and like sneaky hookups kind of do happen on a lot of boats, even off of the show.
Oh my gosh. What happens? Because like a lot of times steamy hookups lend themselves to fighting. Yeah. How do you deal with that? Because you have a job to do. You're stuck it's almost like you're stuck in a box with these people. Right. How does that, have you seen it blow up before with couples or people hooking up?
Yeah, I've seen it go south, and I've seen it go really good too. Like, there is something to be said about like having someone on the boat that has your back and can give you a great orgasm at the end of the day. Yes. There's like 2 polarities to that. Yes. But, I've also seen it really toxic where it makes people go crazy. Their work ethic goes downhill. The whole vibe of the boat is dramatically shifted because like 2 people are going at it and we're all like, hey, let's focus on our job. We have a hand. Let's get this charter tip. So it's hit or miss. But, I always say don't get in a relationship if you can't handle like leaving your emotions at your door, like your cabin door.
Yeah. Do you know any couples who have been like successful after meeting on a boat and then leaving after together?
Yeah. My boyfriend Daniel and I have been together. Tomorrow makes 3 years. And we met on a boat as captain and chief stew. We were dating other people at the time, and you become like a married couple when you're a captain and chief stew. So like your communication skills have to be quick and fast, and there's 5 other crew that you're taking care of as like mother and father. So I think that baseline of a friendship and then becoming best friends and then falling in love made it so like we can kind of tackle anything head on, whether it's business or work or love. Like our rule was like, we've worked together recently in the last 2 years, and our rule is like when we go into our cabin, we don't talk about work. The minute you step into the crew cabin, do not talk to me about work. Don't talk to me about the stews, the charter. Don't ask me questions. Like that's our space. If you want to talk about work, we'll go to the bridge. Like that's the only way that we can keep a healthy relationship is like, you can't let it like bleed into each other.
Yeah.
Because then it gets like, you don't know when you're working, when you're not, when you can be a couple, when, you know, it just helps to like make the lines more defined.
So did you guys get together when he was your captain?
No, the boat had sold in June, and I flew June of like 2021. I flew home to Hawaii to visit my grandparents, and he just randomly called me and was like, hey, I think I'm going to fly to Hawaii next week to go golfing. I was like,
there's nowhere else to golf in the world.
I was like, you're in Florida and you want to fly to Hawaii to golf? And he's like, yeah, I've got some friends. Like, do you want to hang out if I come there? And I was like, you're coming to golf. Am I getting this correct? And like kind of the rest is history from that day forward.
Gosh, I love that. You guys, if those listening, if you have not been to Heather's Instagram, Daniel and Heather are like Barbie and Ken yachting version. Like you guys are so cute, and happy almost anniversary.
Thank you. I tried so hard. I was like, come on, just do below deck. And he was like, hell no, because that man knows how to party. Like I had the most fun with him on the boat. Like you never get to see a captain go out and party, but there are a lot of boats where that is our normal, and it kind of changes up the power dynamic of like the workplace when you get to see the crew party with the captain and we're all kind of in that hazy state. It creates some good drama. So I hope one day the show takes notes and kind of incorporates
100%. That would be, I want to see that.
Yeah.
Like, that's incredible. Also, you guys are just so beautiful
You're
to
like,
watch
oh
together.
no, the guy who's moving the boat just slept with the stew last night. Like, now how's this going to go down?
So true. They're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Gotta love it.
That's so funny. I can only imagine how messy that must get though. Like
I know.
Did you guys originally start out in the same cabin together, or did you like have people move?
No, captains always have their own cabin.
Ooh, nice.
So I had my own cabin with the stew, which made it nice. It's like, I'll go in there when I want. I can go back to my
my like palatial suite. That's amazing. Is it a no-no on charter? Because like I've seen on other seasons of Below Deck that there are crew members that hook up with guests.
Yes. Yeah, that's a big no-no in the industry, that anyone would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you do that. But anyone who says that is just jealous because they don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real here. Like, if some really hot rich man wants to hit on you, and next thing you know, you're like, what girl is going to say no to that?
Well, especially because it's a fine line, because you got to do what the guest wants.
Right.
So what do you do?
A lot of captains will fire you, like, immediately. Like, they'll let the
Really?
charter go on, but if they know that something like that has happened, most people never fess up to those things, because it is like I don't want to say a taboo thing in our industry, but it is. Like, they almost look at it as like, oh my God, you're a home wrecker. Even if you're not wrecking a home, the fact that you're mixing that business and it's like a line.
Yeah, it's a blur line for sure.
Yeah.
Captain Lee, speaking of captains, he seems so intimidating. Also, why has no one made like an annual calendar? Like I picture one of those where you like take off the thing with his sayings. Like nothing's been done with Captain Lee's sayings.
He needs a bookism, like a Captain Leeism book for your coffee
100%.
table.
Yes, he does. They're amazing.
It's so funny you say he seems intimidating, because when I think of him, I just think of a big teddy bear. Like, he's such a big teddy bear. He's a great guy. Like, he's the kind of person where, like, when I went to him that Jess during our season was having a hard time, he was like, go let her know she can always come up to the bridge. My captain's room has no microphones if she wants to take a call in private. If she's like nervous about having cameras everywhere 24/7, like, she's always welcome up here. He like really fathered people through not only yachting, but like what the experience like is filming, because he had done it for so many years. And I think even more so after his son passed away, you saw him take a different kind of like protection over his crew always. And he kind of like always has their best interest in mind, but he also like has a job to do. And I've never seen anyone do it as good as him, of like listen, there's a firm line, but like, I'm also here to support you. Like, come to me if you need anything. Like, his relationship with Eddie was one of the most wholesome things to watch for many, many, many years. And I think we all wished and were waiting for the moment to watch him pass the baton on to Eddie. And I think that's a big heartbreak of what we all missed out on. And I pray that one day maybe we could see that.
Oh my gosh, they need to. Because like at the reunion, wasn't there something that Captain Lee said that was upsetting to Eddie? I remember there was something that went on with them.
Yeah, I think just the controversy of everything that went on that season, like you could sit around and point fingers at who made who what feel what way, but at the end of the day, we're all human. And I think everyone was willing to take ownership of where we had all messed up, myself included, but it was just the same thing, a very fine line of everyone's walking. It was an interesting time for our country. There was a lot going on where like you could say things so that people could understand where you were coming from, but it could also come off as you're just making excuses. So I feel like a lot of people were left with things unsaid just because we feel almost like there is nothing you can say. Yeah. And like you just kind of like end up walking away from your career because you just don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yes.
While trying to say the right thing. It's such an interesting time.
No, it's incredibly hard. So I do want to ask you, you were part of, it was like the most dramatic moment in Below Deck history with the Raina situation. So for those who are listening and may not have seen the show, can you tell us what happened?
Oh, how do you explain that incident? Well, I think you start by saying we were out on a crew night out and we were all drinking and Raina and I had gone to the bathroom, and while she was leaving, she said a line that I parroted her on, and it included a derogatory term that I should have never said. But I parroted her and we both just went on about our night. And a few hours later, we were in the crew mess, like singing a song we had all made up. And it was just a song. No word was said then, but it had reminded her of a remark that I had parroted earlier that night. And she was like, hey, you said something earlier that you cannot say. It's 2021. Like, watch what you're saying. And as I watch that footage, I can see how gone I am. You see my eyes are like glazed over. You see Jake hit my bottle and then beer spilling everywhere and it spills all over myself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cringy. But I honestly didn't remember any of that. And I think you go to episode, it's 9 and 10, I believe, 10, where she's in the middle of the charter. Like, I asked Fraser, I'm like, something's wrong with Raina. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like an off energy. And he was like, yeah, she told me you said something the other night. And I like remember feeling the blood like rush out of my body. I was like, wait, what? I had no idea, honestly, that I had said anything. I actually like ran up to the production door on the yacht because they have a room on the boat. And I went up to the door and I was like banging on the door. I was like, come down here. And they were like, hey, Heather, we're busy right now. And I was like, no, fuck this. And I like went to my cabin. I took my mic off because that's the way you get production to come to you. The minute you take your microphone off and they can't record you, they're like, what's going on? Okay, what's up? And I was like, I need confirmation. Did this really happen? Did I say what they're saying? Like, I don't remember this. Like, I blacked out. Like, can you tell me, show me the footage, like roll back. And she's like, we can't do that. We don't have the video footage cards here. Like, I was like, can you tell me what did I say? And she's like, Heather, just like, you need to focus on your dinner tonight and talk to Raina after the charter. And I remember it was the hardest thing to like pick myself up, try to push through this charter while knowing I might have said something that's like drastically affected a crew member and possibly this entire season. Like, I think in that moment I knew what was happening, but I just had no choice but to like fight forward, you know? So yeah, the long story short is I said something I shouldn't have said, and it kind of became the whole narrative of the entire season, which is a bummer because, you know, no one was hooking up. There wasn't any other juicy drama other than Jess kind of like sucking at her job. Like, they were like, what else are they going to focus on? It's 2021. This is like the hottest topic. Like, why not let us milk this? So I see why they did it. And also, can we side note real quick that when I first met Jess, I think this needs to be known. She was like, hi, I'm a hairdresser. I'm just doing this so that I can get some good clients for my hair business.
Stop.
And I was like, okay, great. And so she like starts to do the show and I'm like, okay, well, you can't come here and suck. Like you can't, like, why do this to be a better hairdresser? Like, don't even come here and waste all of our time.
100% when you're also like, so for those who don't know, Jess, is she second stew? Is that like the...
She was third stew.
Third. Okay, Frasier was second.
Yeah.
So that has to be infuriating because your job is so hard. Like you literally do everything constantly, nonstop. And she's like, I love laundry. You put her in laundry. She's like, I hate laundry. I'm just so sad. P.S. She left the boat and Captain Lee's like, she could have said bye.
Yeah.
Like it was so sad. And she leaves you hanging.
Yeah.
3 hours before charter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bananas.
Brutal.
Yeah.
So brutal.
How did she get cast?
I have no idea. I think people know they like want to be spunky and they want to be fun and they want the opportunity. And I feel like a lot of people that get on the show don't anticipate what it's going to be like to film.
Yes.
It is a shock. Like the first 3 days you're in autopilot. Like you don't know what's your right foot from your left foot. You have new people all around you. There's 100 cameras in your face. You're like always trying to make sure you look good and doing a good job. That it's like, it's a transition. So I think within those first 3 days, you know who's going to sink and who's going to swim.
Yeah.
Like there's been multiple people throughout the entire franchise that have like bowed out mid-season because it's just a lot to handle.
Yeah, I remember when Roxy literally jumped off the boat.
I know. Roxy is crazy.
Yeah, that was nuts.
But that was iconic. Like those first 3 seasons were rural. Like what's the word for it? Like they were just...
Like feral?
They were feral.
Yes.
They were just a free-for-all.
Yes. Well, like her and Eddie had sex on the laundry machine. I'll never look at laundry machine.
And now they've never... That was the only season they didn't have a camera in the laundry room. Every season after that, there's a camera in the laundry room.
They learned. So are you watching the current season?
I am.
Do you watch any other reality TV shows?
I watched some Housewives, Real Housewives of Dubai. I love me some Dubai. I love Vanderpump.
Yes, love it so much.
Love
so
Vanderpump.
Is it different watching it from the point of view of someone who's been on the shows versus like me watching it, like a normie?
I feel like now that I've been through it, it really is different to watch. I always feel like I can see where like production is like, I just see it now. Yeah. Reality TV, I feel like, I don't want to say it's forever ruined for me. I just like watch it in a different way now, having experienced it. Knowing what I've said and done and then watching how they kind of edit and make things out, it's like, I can always like pinpoint a moment where I'm like, I can see what they're trying to shift around.
Yes, and you always hear that. You always hear like, oh, production, like I feel like production has become like a verb almost. They're like, oh, well, that was production. That was,
right.
And it's crazy because you, as a viewer, you're like, no, I feel like that could really be what's happening. But it seems like they do manipulate storylines.
It is so funny. I feel like the minute you get an old cast member saying production, people are like, conspiracy theorist, she's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, she said the P word. Like, that doesn't validate any of her experience. But, you know, it's so wild.
It is. And like the
so
fact
wild.
that like a reality TV show like cast member is a job now and it's career.
Yeah.
Do you think people go into it with agendas like I'm going to be the villain or I'm going to be, you know, the sweet person?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I can see certain cast members that are causing the drama solely because they are smart now. People have seen enough seasons that they know if they're this pot stirrer that they will be called back. Like that is guaranteed to get you on another season. Like I was young and naive, and when I got on the show, all I wanted to prove to myself was that I was a great chief stew. I was young in the industry, that for me, it was more like I looked at it as the yachting Olympics. Like if I could make it through that season, I just wanted to be a great chief stew. I was like, my first season, I'm not going to sleep with anyone. Like I thought Jake was hot. I thought all these people, but I was
everyone thought Jake
not
was
my
hot.
First season. Like I was like, keep my legs closed, make my family proud. And then season 2, I will let the Kraken out, you know, but that's not what they want, you know?
It's got to be so hard. So after you filmed, after the Raina thing happened and it aired, what was the fallout like for you?
The hardest thing for me was dealing with everyone's opinions, like online, whether it just be all of the fans of the show or cancel culture. It was a lot. It was a lot. I think my DMs were crazy for almost like 6 months, whether it be death threats or calling me out and telling me the type of person, like, I deserve to go to hell, like, how dare I, XYZ. I think there's a lot of keyboard warriors out there, which is great. I just wish they would put their energy towards, I don't know, cancer research or something that actually benefits us all. Yes. But I'd say the hardest part for me was just dealing with everyone's opinions of how it went down. Like, I already know I messed up. I'm the first to take ownership.
You literally
but then to like let over 1.5 million viewers that watch every single episode, it felt like at least half of that was always being, for at least a year after, everyone wanted to give me their opinion of how they took the show. That was a hard one to...
That's got to be so frustrating. And especially because that situation, like you said, so it happened on episode 8. It carried on. Like, it happened, then it wasn't discussed for like 3 more episodes. So I can only imagine what the weeks in between those episodes airing was like for you.
Oh my gosh. And the year in between it even airing, just sitting on my ass waiting for it to air, for the whole season to come out, not knowing how they were going to portray it. That year was probably the hardest for me because my mind was just, it created and made me into an overthinker. Yeah. Like that whole year of just wondering what was going to happen, trying to play it politically correct because I wanted to be called back for another season. And I was kind of led to believe that I was going to be back on another season, that I just kind of made sure I wore the right face and I did the right thing. I don't want to say that. Made sure I put myself forward in the best light so it looked good for the network and it looked good for XYZ, that I almost didn't stand up for myself in the ways that I should have because I just wanted to make sure that I was taking everyone else's feelings into consideration. I don't know. Yeah. It's
so ironic to me because when it happened, Raina says something about cancel culture. And then it's kind of like she's the person that caused, you to be, I think you were a victim of cancel culture. I really do. It's a real thing. Have you spoken to her since?
Raina and I hung out at the hotel after filming. Once we ended filming, we all went back to the same hotel, did like a day of interviews before everyone flew off the island. Mm-hmm. So the whole crew got together at the hotel. And that first night, it was like nothing ever happened. Like she was at my hotel room drinking beers with everyone else. And like, I ordered all of those beers on my tab. Everyone came to party in my room and it was like nothing had kind of happened. And at the reunion, we didn't talk much. But then when the reunion came on, I remember her saying like, Heather, I don't think you were malicious. Like, I know that you were sorry for it. She was more kind of coming for Eddie and the lack of support, that I was more shocked. Like, I was expecting to get like the brunt load. But at the end of the day, I just feel so sorry. I hurt for Raina that she felt that way. Mm-hmm. I hurt that that was her experience on the show. I hate that that was how her and I get introduced to the world through reality TV, because I can see at the core of who she is, she's a great woman and she was just being misunderstood and I was being misunderstood. And here you have 2 people trying to be like, hey, I'm misunderstood. And there was no way for it to be a smooth path, right? So I feel sorry for what I did, but I also feel sorry that this was our experience. Like, yes. She's a great woman on deck. She's worked on some incredible boats. And I saw her resume, like, she's a badass. Mm-hmm. It didn't need to go this way, but it did. And I know she got just as much backlash as I did. Like, we both had cancel culture on our asses for that entire year. So, I mean, I don't have a relationship with her today, but I have often thought about, like, I would love to go to lunch with her if she was ever in Florida. Like, I would want to just know, like, how her mental health is, how this feels for her, because we both went through it. And I think there's a piece that we could take away and, like, fill to, like, see each other face to face and be like, I'm sorry that was your experience. Yeah. And, like, can we hug it out? Like, I still think you're an incredible person on deck. Sorry we both went through this, but I hope your life is great, Yeah.
And I think, going back to when she said it's 2021, now it's 2024, but part of that whole cultural transition was acknowledging that you made a mistake and acknowledging what was said. And I feel like you did that a million times on the show on camera. And I think it would be like an amazing thing to see you both come back and be like, this is how this was handled. This is how we can have conversations. We can have like learning experiences. Like we don't have to just throw everyone away because they make a mistake.
Yeah. I know. That's kind of the side that cancel culture could move forward with. Like, why do we just need to cancel someone? Can we use these things to be teachable moments? Yeah. Can we be humans and say like, hey, this is what happens when something like that happens, and this is how we move forward. This is how we all grow as an individual. Why do we just have to cut someone off and leave them to die in the back of the corner? Like, what is that all about? Like, that is not conducive to anyone's growth or learning. And why are we letting people get away with slandering people's entire careers over these things?
It has to be so painful. I do want to switch gears and talk about yachting. So you were in yachting for how many years?
8.5, almost 9. Like, I still freelance here and there, so like I want to call it 9, but you know, if you count the working months, 8.5, we'll call it 9.
That's an incredibly long career. So congratulations on that. You had to see some crazy shit throughout those years. What is like the craziest thing you saw a guest do or an experience that you had?
Do you remember the Fyre Festival?
Of course.
You remember, like,
I saw both documentaries.
What was his name? Seth MacFarlane?
Close. I wish it was Seth MacFarlane. Billy McFarlane.
Billy McFarlane. That's what it was. Billy.
Cousin of Seth,
Okay, Fyre Festival was wild.
Yeah.
And the yacht I worked on, actually the one that I slept in the bed in the crew mess, I was on that boat for Fyre Festival. And iconically, that yacht's name was Octopussy. Can we just like talk about that for a minute? I used to love walking around with a shirt that just said Octopussy on it, and people would always be like, "Wait, what is this girl wearing?"
I love that.
But I was working on this boat for Fyre Festival. We got chartered out for both weekends because it was a 2-weekend show.
Yes.
So one set of guests were coming the first week, and a second set of guests chartered us out for the second week. But the first week, I'll never forget. We picked up the guests in Georgetown and went over to where it was. So we got the guests on the boat, and it's the first day, and they're all like, okay, we'll be at the island. I think it was like a 6 hours underway kind of thing. And we go to pull up, and we're all like, what does this island look like? This is going to be so cool. And we're like standing there with our binoculars on the bow. And I'm like, oh my God, these look like refugee tents. Like, this is so interesting. Like, how much did these people pay to like stay here?
Yeah.
And we get to the marina, and we had golf carts sitting there waiting for them so that they could go and check out the stages, go check out the venue. And all of these people get off the boat, and like, we're like, okay, like we were chartered for a music festival. So we knew we weren't going to have to entertain much. Like they were just going to be coming and going. We were just going to be dealing with people, giving them water, sending them on their way. Right. No, they came back within like 10 minutes of getting on land, and they were like, pull the lines, lift the anchor, get us out of here. Like, people are going crazy. And they were like, we have to get out of here right now. But I'm convinced that the gentlemen that chartered that yacht for that trip, they were from New York.
Yeah.
None of these girls knew each other. I'm so convinced that they just walked around New York City and were like, do you want to go on a yacht? Do you want to go on a yacht? Hey, you're cute. Would you like to come on a yacht? Because none of these girls knew each other.
Oh my God.
So now that the music festival wasn't a thing, we had to like full on entertain these people that had no idea who they all were. Like,
what did you do?
We ended up making a fun time out of it. We took them to other islands in the Bahamas and kind of just like improv.
I cannot. As Fyre Festival like burned to the ground, like literally, that's crazy.
It was insane. I remember thinking I was going to get to see Blink-182, and when it all fell through, I was like shattered.
Yeah, I should be like, Ja Rule. Like, I can only imagine like the people like trying to get on the boat, because I know like it was insane.
Oh yeah,
like there was no way to get off.
Absolutely insane.
Oh my gosh, did you have enough provisions?
So much provisions. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, we're always stocked, loaded, full. Every crack and crevice of the boat has snacks, drinks, limes, lemons. Like, I used to go to the store and buy like 70 lemons and limes at a time. People at Publix are like, what on earth are you doing?
I just really love lemons.
We usually check out with like 9 shopping carts. Like, when you go to prep for a charter, you are taking up a whole lane. Like, I keep going with the cart. I'm like, I'll be back. I'm like, and you check out. Provision day is intense. Not on the show. Provision day is crazy.
Yeah, no, on the show it looks like, and this wonderful boat shows up, and then there it is.
Yeah, and like most people use purveyors in Europe.
Yeah.
And sometimes down in the Caribbean, but the reality is that is like $5,000 more than if you were to just go get it yourself. So in the real yachting world, Chief Stew and the Stews all go out and get everything because the captain's like, we're going to pay some guy $5,000 to do your job. Like, go get the provisions.
Yeah. So yachting can be dangerous, I feel like. Have you ever been in like I just picture on Wolf of Wall Street when like their boat almost capsizes and the storm whole thing. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Massive storm. Yes, dragging anchor. All of the crew were on the beach. It was just me and the captain, and it was actually Daniel.
Oh my gosh, you've been through so much.
It was actually Daniel. We had this squall in the Bahamas come through, 50 knot winds, like strong winds. Beautiful, sunny. 10 minutes later, you can't anticipate it. Like it's not on the weather chart. Like squalls come through out of nowhere. And we were dragging anchor and we were going into the shallow and Daniel's like, we need to get the chef on the boat. And it's like, whoosh, it's just like on the Wolf of Wall Street, you know, like the waves are high and the chef's on this jet ski and I have to like throw him a line. And Daniel's like, go get a line. It's in the port quarter. And I was like, left side, right port, left is ports on. And he's like, always makes this joke about, he has a video of me being like, that's on this side of the boat. I'm like running. I clearly don't know what I'm doing in that moment.
Gosh.
And I'm like throwing a line to the show. It was the craziest experience of my life.
Oh,
like, that tender crashed into the boat. Like food was, glasses were breaking. It was a very intense experience.
Oh my God. Good on Daniel. He like saved your life. That's crazy.
He saved the boat for sure.
That's
he saved the boat.
Nuts.
He did not save my life. I was like, Captain, please, I'll help you lift the anchor. Just walk me through. And I'm like speaking into my microphone. He's like, I'm not having you lift the anchor. He's like, just get the chef on the boat.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Lifting the anchor, by the way, that's a whole, or doing the anchor is a whole to do.
Whole thing.
Every time I watch it on Below Deck, I'm like, hold your breath, hold your breath. Like,
it's insane.
It's terrifying. I had no idea. It just seems like, oh, you just drop it.
And if you drop it like that and the chain runs out like it did where it falls, like that could cut someone's leg off. Like there's so much speed and so much weight that chain could be deadly. So, I mean, yachting is so dangerous.
It really is. Like
I've had like a hatch fall on my head and knock me into a hatch before. I've almost got my thumb taken off in the lines because the boat crashed into a dock and I was trying to wrap the line around the cleat and I couldn't get it quick enough. The line was like sliding out and like within seconds I had to get wrist surgery because of it. Oh yeah, there's daily moments in the yachting industry that are like very dangerous.
That's so crazy. Are pirates a thing?
Yeah, I've never had an encounter with them, but Daniel has. He was telling me, but even in our STCW training that you have to do to become a yacht stew or work on a boat in general, they teach you to shoo pirates away with the fire hose. Because we all have a fire hose connect to the water system and they want you to like blast them with 100 cc's of water. Like they think that's going to get the pirates away.
Right. Like they haven't figured out a way. That's crazy scary that's a real thing.
Yeah, they're on like usually going down to the Caribbean from Florida when you're passing Cuba. Daniel's story is about like a wooden boat with no light on it. They have no GPS and they'll try to like flag you down and be like, hey, help, like we're stuck at sea. And he said like he's had encounters like that where you know to not pick up, like you can vibe it out and see, but majority of the time they tell you you keep going, like especially when you're passing some of these countries, like it's a booby trap.
Oh my gosh, who thought, like I thought that was like a thing of like arg pirates, like
no, it's a thing.
That's nuts. That is so nuts. So
pirates are real.
That's so what are
I
you
am the captain now.
Like yes, I am the, oh my gosh, yes, hello.
Yeah.
How could I forget that? I say that to my son all the time.
Yeah, right.
Yes, I'm watching you, sir. So true, so true. So what are you up to now?
I actually was craving some land life. I had a cute apartment and I'm basically a chief stew on land. I work for a private estate and I'm pretty much someone's personal chief stew, but I don't have to go sit on anchor. And I also don't have to manage 5 crew that are just prissy brats. So I'm like really enjoying that.
Yes, I love that so much. Well, you're so good at it. I can't thank you enough. Thank you for being here today. Where can people find you on social media?
My social media is Heather Capiolani. That's my middle name.
Yes.
But find me there. And I'm feeling like getting back into TikTok. It's just like very intimidating. Like I'm not a dancing girl, but I want to use it to like help people learn how to become a chief stew of their own home.
Yeah.
So I'm like kind of feeling like maybe I'll do that.
I have to tell you, there are times I'm cleaning up, I feel like I'm a chief stew, and like no one does it better than you.
That's actually my TikTok handle, Chief Stew Energy.
Love Chief Stew Energy. I'm following that today for sure.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a blast.
Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Cannot wait to see it and hear it all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Shut Up, Tell Me More. Please click follow to subscribe and get downloads of all my upcoming episodes. Follow me on Instagram at @PamComiter, COMITER, and give this episode a 5-star review, and I'd be so, so, so grateful. See you next time.